has a degree in architecture, but a longtime industrial designer working now for Rks Design here in the outskirts of Los Angeles. His 30-plus years of experience in design-led innovation and building of brands by design. He's an articulate spokesman on the topic of the business of design, because it's often a discipline which is difficult to sell to upper management for the ROI that it brings to the equation, but it's unquestionable the importance of it. He has experience and expertise in business strategy, marketing, as I mentioned, architecture, transportation, and product development, and has served as a lecturer and a correspondent on topics of using design and creative processes to think beyond the constraints of existing processes. So Scott's really here not to talk specifically about plastic waste, but to talk about opening your mind to new ways of innovation and approaching some of the issues that would confront us. So without further ado, Scott Clear.
And thanks, Doug, for inviting me. Are there any other industrial designers in the room? Raise your hands. I'm kind of documenting this. Just curious. Have you ever engaged with an industrial designer before in any projects? Anybody? Okay. All right. So I'll try to show you how we do it from our end. So industrial design, yes, we do design products and services for our clients, mostly for Fortune 500. We're agnostic to market, so anywhere from automotive to healthcare to consumer electronics, and that's kind of a snapshot of some of the products that we've worked on. So just like Bob said, my background is as an architect. I'm also an automotive designer, product designer, and I'm also the subject matter expert on all materials and processes for the Domus Academy in Milan, Italy. And so the reason why I asked if there's any other designers in here is, and then Bob alluded to it earlier, is that a lot of corporations don't realize, but the designer, the industrial designer, is your first material specifier. So no, they don't spec the exact grade of material, but they actually tell the concept of the design development of whether the product's ever going to be glass, plastic, metal, or recycled content. So for this subject matter to not cover the design area very well, then you're missing kind of your first point of entry. And so the first point of entry is going to be, what's it going to be when it grows up? And then after the designer comes up with what its vision might be, then it's going to go in through the iterations of refinement and material selection or process direction. So I like to give everybody a warning of what I'm going to cover. So I'm going to cover two case studies. One's going to be on a new material, and one's going to be on a packaging project. As Doug and Bob were kind of alluding to, everybody getting together and working together on a more micro scale, that's exactly how we look at things. So we make sure that our team is not only diversified in talent, but also in thinking. So, our firm will be made up of part left-brainers and part right-brainers, so it's not all creative types. We also have a number of engineers and scientists that work with our agency. And then with every project, we always make sure that diversity also expands into other expert levels. So we don't do anything without this particular combination. And so we always have a baseline of how we look at things, and I always like the way this guy kind of noted it. We're always looking for differentiation, we're always looking to do things new and different, and we're always trying to come up with a new idea. So when we look at the left brain and the right brain activities, we kind of see the types of people that we have, and at the end of the day, whether you're a scientist, engineer, or designer, they're all trying to do the same thing. They're all trying to solve a problem or create a solution for something, and so it's all got the same end game. It's just that they have different languages and different ways of doing it, and so we kind of pull that together. And the way we do it is we put together a few strategies that we work on to help the teams kind of work together. And so biomimicry has always been a passion of mine. I teach biomimicry courses at the San Diego Zoo and help architects and designers leverage nature into moving into new spaces. The ethnography is a big deal for us regarding, do anybody even care about what you're doing? So we make sure that we figure that out first before we move forward. The psychological behavior triggers are always part of what we're going to do. So you're going to hear me talk about emotions and some other triggers that are a little bit different regarding some of the terminology we use. The material sciences on our part, we're not material scientists. We're not by any means, but what we do is when I say material sciences, we're more about manipulation, understanding materials, what it's capable of doing. And we do tons of prototyping. So you're seeing a lot of prototyping coming up on the horizon from not only just 3D printing but for rapid validation to anything from, we call prototyping even visual prototyping. A sketch is a prototype, or an animation, a rendering is also anything that communicates an idea. And so we're all about that. So the first case study I'm going to talk about is it's a packaging project. And with packaging, we're working with a lot of clients like Amazon and others that are looking into evolving the e-commerce movements from retail to the growing e-commerce segment. This is a completely new look at things. So this is an e-commerce solution that we worked with a company called Fresh Roam. They started as a startup, but Calavo, you might know them as the avocado people, also Renaissances are the people that cut up vegetables. When you go to the grocery store and you see all that prepackaged carrots or cauliflower and radishes, they're the ones that do all that. And so they had this existing infrastructure in place that had some capabilities that was untapped, that wasn't being utilized. So we were looking at growing their business. So the first thing is that we start by, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing and the right reasons. So we start shadowing their current packaging and meal preparations. Meal preparations are from the user's point of view. And then we do is back to that prototyping, we always come up with some kind of theory or a hypothetical, and that hypothetical is generated into the form of a concept. And we take that concept and we test it with the users. And the users are not just end users, but it's all key stakeholders and voices, whether that's sales, marketing, manufacturing, not just the end user. So we test it through all the stages before we refine it. We then come up into benchmarking where people were in their past, where they are today, and then where they see themselves in the future. And that allows us to design the right things. And then when we started the research, we noticed based on the current food infrastructure, we're seeing over 40% of the food wasting in America just from point A to point B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. And so we looked at some other issues and what that relates to. There's also the correlation to the 47 million Americans that are also food insecure. We're not solving for these issues. These are just issues that connect with what we're trying to do. And so this slide kind of pictures the solution from the big picture before we go into product or service development. And so we're looking at maybe the issues with the current infrastructure. And so you can see all the steps that are involved in what we currently do today when we go to the grocery store. And so it's taking 10 days to get from the table to your table, and in best case scenarios. And so, and now you can see why maybe we're looking at a 40% waste in the handling from all these points of contact. So the solution here that we're proposing to the client is that we'll turn them from a packer to packaging, and through their current infrastructure, we'll go straight farm to table. So that led into product and service design that developed this product. And so this product is a farm to table overnight solution. It's got a number of issues that we had to solve for. We had to maintain 40 degrees over 40 hours so that we could get from the East Coast to the West Coast with it safely, and then we had to minimize all the materials and reduce its waste. In this case, this product is used over 100 times and gets repurposed. And then after it's beat up to the point of non-reuse, then we just recycle it to 100% of it at the packer's location. We'll clean it up and use it again. And so you can see some of the things that we discovered was there was kind of a loophole that made this possible, and there was FedEx and UPS offered a solution where we could ship a 17-inch cube from coast to coast and back, for a fair amount less than we were assuming, which made this possible. And so we looked at what we were going to do with it, and that's just the package part of it. And so that wasn't going to be good enough. From the market point of view, we had to make sure that, again, this is that part where people care about whether they want it or not. And so it's already a fast-growing segment. We know it's actually, these are fairly conservative numbers, but the numbers that we're seeing already just from last October, this product has already seen 300% growth since last October. And so the way we did it was, in order for people to actually want this, what did they want? They wanted time savings. They wanted things that made their life better. And it wasn't just that they wanted fresh food, that's all great, but they wanted pre-prepared meals. And they still wanted to prepare the meal, but they wanted pre-prepared. And so the first launch, we tried doing it on our own, just from Packer directly, but people were resonating with these brands. And so through partnerships, these are just a few of the brands that they're partnered with and that are now shipping these types of products to the users. Now we're giving them exactly what they want in the way that they want, in a better way that they've ever been able to experience before this situation was available. So it was an instant commercial success. This is one way that we were looking at recyclability. One was this repurposing, and then making sure we use materials that were recyclable so that we could continue to make the same product. In the case like Doug was talking about, the client wanted this to actually be the part that we advertised. So we do actually say that it is a recycled content, because there's not like an aerospace tolerance or a situation in this product performance that we're worried about the consumers thought. In this case, this is exactly what the consumers are asking for. They want to know that it's actually recycled, and they want to be able to reuse it. And that's actually why they're signing up for these programs, and that's why it's growing so fast. So totally different case study. This is a case study with Weyerhaeuser. So this is about how designers not only use a material, but if a material is not available to us, this is something that we'll do to actually make our own material. And so Weyerhaeuser's been a long-term client for a number of years, and they had already come up with this solution before they engaged us. You can see that Weyerhaeuser is a company that grows trees for a living. Kind of an interesting fact. One of their marketing people said that if Weyerhaeuser wasn't in the business of growing trees, back when they were growing trees from the get-go, we'd be out of trees by now. So it's kind of interesting to see what they actually do. This is one of their waste products, actually. So you see when they after they're done with the lumber, they would usually normally use this waste for fuel to power their factories. And it's an excess that they actually don't need. So what we do is we intercept this point of the waste product, and we further extract additional cellulose fiber from it to use for filler and materials. So in this case, the first product they wanted to launch for a number of reasons was to add long fiber, cellulose fiber into polypropylene. Couple reasons was, one, because it was a commodity grade material and they thought it'd get higher adoption by going that route. And the other one was that it was a difficult material to start with, and figured everything would be easier once we actually figured out how to formulate this. So you Thrive in its current situation, it's been out in the market for a couple years now. Ford's using it in the Lincoln interior door panels. You're seeing it in a number of consumer packaging goods now. And it has a lot of different values that give it a leg up over the glass-filled polypropylene versus cellulose-filled polypropylene. one of the cases from a designer's point of view is we're not constrained by the geometries that long fiberglass does when it's inside the part, where cellulose allows it to go into some rather unique shapes. And so it gives us more freedom from the design point. So after we launched the first one, I think this was at the International Design Society of America conference in Houston 2 years ago, Weyerhaeuser asked us where we wanted to go next. So they already chose the polypropylene route, and we chose that we wanted to take it more to a greener route. And so Weyerhaeuser, they're all about life. This is just one of the 63 million trees that they grow every year. They focus mostly on the Douglas fir, and they have over 33 million acres of timberlands, mostly in Canada and United States. So we wanted to leverage their brand by moving away from some of the other materials they were focusing on and look at something else that we thought was going to be better for us. And so we wanted a more natural material that was uncompromised by cost and performance. So you can actually see the Thrive in this cup. That's what they call it dice. And so it comes in a sheet form. They dice it up, and this is actually what goes into the compounder. From the design perspective, you can see that we actually took one of the trees and stuck it inside the Thrive material. What was interesting about this is we benchmarked the Thrive next to, we went down to Home Depot and picked up some soil and did a comparison. It turned out that our plants were growing better in the Thrive than they were actually in the soil. And so it was just an interesting point from the designer's perspective about life and safety and natural. Another thing is I don't normally recommend it, but the designers are actually eating this stuff. You'll find it in anything from ice cream to shredded cheese, but it doesn't taste good. So we went to Celanese originally, the world's largest cellulose company in Dallas, Texas. They weren't willing to play with us. We went to Eastman Chemical, the second largest, and they said it was possible, but they weren't willing to take it on. So we worked with Rotuba, compounder in New Jersey. And so Adam Bell, the CEO, allowed us to use his facility, and it was interesting. So Adam picks me up at the airport. We run in there. Into his factory. We go straight from the front door into the conference room. We didn't sign any disclaimers or safety documents or take any safety classes. Don't repeat that, by the way. And we go into this large conference room, and there's about 35 people, and I was like, Adam, what's going on? And he said, they've never seen a designer, let alone worked with a designer. That's why I asked you earlier, how many of you actually worked with a designer? And they're more curious about what you're going to do. And so that was kind of how we started it out. There wasn't much confidence in the product actually moving forward, but we were able to start the formulation that morning and had it executed by noon the same day. And so we're using a cellulose acetate propionate with the fiber here. And so they didn't think it was going to pull off, and we got it to work on the first trial. They're high-fiving. They're thinking they're done. I wanted to continue. This is still on the same day, by the way. So we extruded it. We pelletized it. And, designers are always looking at it from the five senses point of view, maybe not looking at the strength or, we're not jumping straight to a tensile bar right away, but we're looking at some of the other things that we might emotionally connect with. And of course, the first thing we'll do is how it feels or how it smells or how it looks. And so that's Adam. By the way, that's Adam Bell. And it smells like wood. So it's fascinating. There's things that we can do with that. So after we pelletized it, again, they thought it was a benchmark march of success. And I said, well, we're not done yet. So he had an injection machine set up around the corner, so I was like, let's shoot it. And sure enough, it still smells like wood. Although we burned the first one, but we were able to adjust it and get some pretty nice effects out of it. I lost my controller. There we go. So after we shot it, we decided to color it. So this is just after lunch on the same day. We ran a few colors on it. It was very successful. We were able to get pretty close on the first trials. And then one of the things that we noticed that was interesting was what if we actually didn't color the material or we colored the fiber instead? And so in this case, we took an airless sprayer and put some food dye on it and actually put it into the mix, and you can see it actually created these really cool effects. After we did this, we decided, well, we need to showcase to the world what it's actually capable of doing. We know we can do extrusions, we can do injection molding, we do a number of other things with it. So we chose to use one of our own products. So this is the Rks Guitar. It was featured on the cover of Business Week 10 years ago. It's used by a number of great artists around the world. And so since we already had the tool, we decided to use it to benchmark this new material. And then this is a picture of Fish, Michael Herring, testing out the product. And we launched this at the IDSA Seattle, which is also Weyerhaeuser's headquarters. And so we wanted to show a real-world application. It sounded better, worked better, felt better. We saw substantial improvements in the performance and its cycle times. And so now Weyerhaeuser is now in talks with Eastman, and they're now looking at commercializing it and making it available for the rest of the world. Just to wrap up, we do this with a number of organizations, not just universities, but you can see that we got a pretty good mix of things. Anybody wants to know any more about how we do it, we teach our process at Harvard. You can go on there and get your case studies and work booklets if you're interested. Also, that's a book that we published about 8 years ago on how we do this. This is a really quick time, but you'll notice that I really elevate a lot of things to emotional content, and so I always like to leave with this quote. And so Maya Angelou said that, I've learned that people will forget what you've said, they will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And so from when we talk about that left brain and right brain situation, this is kind of the approach that we take it. This is the lens that we take from it. Although we might all end at the same time, this is our lenses. So thanks. Sorry, it was really fast.
Thank you, Scott.
So coming from recycling and from polyolefins, I've actually been looking for cellulose to experiment with, and I've been calling all kinds of people, and I would just imagine the size of the cellulose would have the impact on the recyclability. I would think if you got it small enough, you could recycle it. I wouldn't think it would really change the density of the material, and it would be a better filler than calcium carbonate, which really greatly negatively affects the recyclability if you use it too much. And so everything I've been reading, all the papers I've read have been very positive as an additive of cellulose. So there's some great papers on it. So I've been trying really hard to get cellulose in my product. So I'm just so happy to be here and would love to experiment with it. But I think the size of the particle would be the main key.
Yeah, talk to Adam at Rotuba. He's your man. So, I mean, they're the #1 cellulose compounder in the world. So he'll rent you time on his line, and he'll experiment with any of the materials.
That's good to know. But if I wanted to compound it myself, it's getting that cellulose fiber is what I'm...
No, I mean, there's a number of fibers you can purchase. So even working with Weyerhaeuser probably willing to work with you pro bono up to a certain point. Just ask them, you just want the dice, as they call it. You want the fiber before they actually compound it. So I would ask them for samples of that. I know they've been working with Poly1 and a number of others in this area. They're looking to commercialize it, so if you have something, they're going to be willing to look to you to help them. They're always looking for things. So again, if you want, I can give you George Cortez's. He's the guy that's running this for Weyerhaeuser.
Okay, great. Thanks.